Hi guys, welcome back. So tonight is a little different. I'm reading a true scary story Reddit thread where people were asked to share the creepiest things that's ever happened to them, and I'm going to be going through the top comments. Some of these are genuinely upsetting because they're real and the details are way too specific to be fake. So if you're listening at night, just a warning, don't blame me if you start side-eyeing every little noise. I'm also trying to reach my first 100 subscribers, so if you enjoy this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It seriously helps me out so much. Also comment if you like these kind of stories, so I know if I can make more or just go back to reading regular Reddit stories, but yeah, let me know in the comments and enjoy. Reddit. What is your most disturbing, scary, or creepy real story? A few years ago, I was walking through the woods off a beaten track a bit, and I smelled this really overpowering sweet smell. Being nosy, I pulled back the undergrowth to have a look and found a dead body. The guy had clearly been there for a while and wasn't looking great, all swollen and green and black with various runny bits. The local wildlife had also been dining well for a few days. I called the police, who told me to wait with the body until they arrived. Being in the middle of nowhere, it took them a while to arrive, and it got dark, and I just sat there in the dark with him for a long time. It turned out he had committed suicide. For a long time afterwards, I had dreams about him, and he would talk to me, and not nice things. Mainly about how he was angry I had disturbed his resting place, and he wanted me to kill myself. Probably just imagination, but all pretty disturbing at the same time. He still turns up in my dreams from time to time, and no doubt will be tonight after typing this. About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on roads with dense bushes and trees on either side. The real creepy ones you see in a lot of movies. Anyway, I'd been driving for about 45 minutes, and I was starting to get really tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired out of nowhere? Well, yeah, that happened to me. I knew I wasn't going to last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. Anyway, after it became clear to me that I wasn't going to find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road onto the grass, behind some bushes, to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. The roads weren't empty. I came across another car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22 and then fell asleep. Sometime later, I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock. 11:50. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and now it was 12:40. This time it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car, but why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rearview mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now at the time I thought it was a damn hook killer. You know, the one that scratched the couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate? Fuck that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a fucking car, parked off the side of the road, with the driver's side door opened. I slowed down just to look if anyone was in there. There wasn't. Then I looked in my rear view mirror. I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, hey you, get the fuck out of your car, now. I noped the fuck out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. Moral of the story? Don't fucking sleep on the side of a deserted road. A few summers ago, I went for a bike ride around midnight with a friend. We went our separate ways at the end of the evening, and I had about 2 blocks to ride back by myself. Because of construction, I had to ride on the sidewalk, but the streets were dead, so it wasn't a problem until right where I was about to turn left on my street. There was this man walking by himself, maybe 40s, a little scruffy but not homeless. The sidewalk was narrow and I didn't want to freak him out when I got about 6 feet behind him. I said, "Hey, behind you." And he turned around and gave me this super angry look. I turned on my street and he started to follow me, literally screaming about how I was a fucking cunt and he was gonna kill me and all that. I live right off the corner and I didn't want him to figure that out, so I decided to do another loop around the block. That's not the scary part. The scary part is that when I looped back around and looked down the street, I saw him standing on my fucking front doorstep, staring out at the street like this motherfucker knew I lived there. He saw me ride by again, but he didn't say anything. I ended up going back to the friends, but my bike got stolen from the alleyway by the house 2 days later. I posted this just a couple days ago on another thread. This isn't very interesting, but I woke up with blood gushing down my cheek when I was younger, and I didn't feel anything, but my face felt wet. So I went down to my parents' room and they freaked out. Till this day, we still have not a clue what cut my face, but I needed 8 stitches next to my eye. We checked the sheets, pillows, pillowcases, edges of bed, etc. Still no idea. So I was sleeping, and in the middle of the night, a character in my dream who was doing something turned her head, looked at me very seriously, and said, "There's someone in your apartment. Wake up." I nearly had a goddamned heart attack, and my apartment was empty. I had awesome parents who let me sleep in the living room on weekend nights when I was very young because my sister was a light sleeper and I could stay up until dawn. But of course I always end up sleeping on the couch because Nick at night made me tired. So one night I wake up to the prickly feeling, like an instinct, just bolted into a sitting position and stared out the front window. We lived in rural Georgia, so you can imagine the magnitude of trees. In perfect light cast from the moon, I see a silhouette of someone in this fucking tree. The family dog dashes to the window and is snarling into the grass. Terrified, I run to my parents' room and try to explain to my parents that there's a strange person outside. Dad grabs something defensive and darts outside with the dogs to beat the wax off some hothead. I tremble in Mama's arms until Dad comes home and says he saw no one and to go to bed. I decide to sleep in my regular bedroom. I fill in my sister and as to what happened. Dad is making regular rounds in the house with a cup of coffee. We're all still and I finally think I can sleep. Nope. I notice the man outside my window. From what I can see in the moonlight, he gives me a hush signal and runs away, just turns around to run a straight line away. I swear I couldn't stop crying for what felt like hours. I wanted to share my own story as well. When I was about 9 or 10, I was asleep in my bedroom, and for some reason I woke up. I didn't open my eyes, but I felt as if something was hovering right above me. Like I knew it was there. I could even hear the breath. It was like a literal demon was hovering above me. And somehow I also felt like I started to hover. So like both of us were hovering in the air. And I remember being so terrified I didn't dare to open my eyes, but I just knew something was literally right above me. Eventually, I felt like I settled, and I want to say I laid there for about an hour, still terrified to open my eyes. And once I finally did, I ran to my light, turned it on, and of course nothing was there, but I just remember how real it felt to have something like literally hovering above me. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment maybe your own scary story or whichever one you thought was the scariest, and I hope you have a good night.